Show does not discriminate based on race, color, creed, or other musical preferences, national or ethnic origin, sex, literacy level, religion, disability, favorite ice cream flavor, age, political affiliation or belief, educational background, favorite sports team, genetic information, genetic mutation, veteran status, citizenship status, Facebook status, global location, particular state, county, city, or even which side of town you happen to be on. Although we may pick on you if you're an idiot, or put pineapple on your pizza, which may be the same thing.
Welcome to the FWOT Show on the Coil Entertainment Network, iTunes, the Google Play Store, and a bajillion other places across the internet. I'm Rob Steele. That's still Jesus Jones in the background. Yes, I switched songs. You'll get over it. It's a good song still. Still on the Liquidizer album, though. Can't get out of 1989. Don't know why. Anyway, this is the show that lets you know that if it feels as though the world has lost its mind, it's not just you. It has. And before you start thinking, no, Rob, it's just the United States, I want you to remember that back in 2013, Azerbaijan had open poll elections, and they kind of published the election results 3 weeks before the election actually happened. Yeah, you think our election system is corrupt, and you'd be right, it is. So let's look at some of the things that have happened in the States since I had a full-blown FWOT show. I know I had a rant last week. This week, little different, back to normal, really. Something that happened since the last time I did a regular, ordinary, everyday FWOT show. Yeah, I've never actually done something like that. Anyway, all the crap with the monuments. We must tear down the monuments of the Confederacy, which is not a bad idea, because frankly, most of them aren't that good looking because the people involved are not that good looking. I'm just saying, not my fault. I did not create them. But something I've seen floating around lately doesn't really sit well with me. There's someone who keeps posting on Facebook and Twitter and wherever he can apparently get someone to repost his stuff that Public Law 85-425 on May 23rd, 1958, Section 10. He says that it allows for the freedom of having Confederate statues in public parks, and that tearing them down is a federal offense. Except there's one flaw with what he's saying this law says, and that's that it doesn't say that at all whatsoever. I pulled up the law on the internet from a number of places, and if before you say, Rob, how do you know it's reputable? How about uscode.houseofrepresentatives.gov? Yeah, it's the House of Representatives website. It's where the laws are kept. It's a PDF file, and it looks like it was scanned from something old. I'm taking it at value because, I found it multiple places. And you know what? It doesn't say that. That's not what it says at all. The whole thing about pulling down all these Confederate statues and everything is actually probably a pretty good idea. Now, a lot of people have said, if you pull those down, we'll forget everything that happened with the Confederacy, and then it'll happen all over again because we're going to forget. You know what? There are no statues of Hitler in Germany. We haven't forgotten that, have we? No. There's these things called history books. And that's where they keep the history. Isn't that clever of them? But the whole thing has gotten a bit ridiculous. For example, recently there was a basketball game in Virginia, not in Charlottesville, where they had the big protest thing with all the white guys with the tiki torches they got from Home Depot. Yeah. But ESPN was covering this basketball game, and they pulled one of the announcers. They said, we can't have you announce the game because your name is Robert Lee. Kind of like General Lee, because, that was his name too. The problem is, this particular Robert Lee was not Robert Lee from Kentucky. This was Robert Lee from China. Morons. You know what? I don't think anyone was paying attention to his name anyway. Now everybody knows who he is, so in a sense, he's kind of glad about it. At the same time, no. But, while we're on the subject of football, which is something that is comes up about every time this year. Strange how that happens. There is a report that there is a pill in development that will cure concussions. Yeah, I'm not exactly buying it either, but it's on several reputable sites, CNN, still a somewhat reputable site. My problem with this is it's a drug, and therefore will immediately go on the NFL's banned substance list because this is the NFL and it might be good for the players, and we can't have that now, can we? By the way, 2 other sports bits. Actually, there's going to be more later in the show. Sorry, Elle, but you'll get over it. This is something you'll find amusing, though. In the Atlanta Falcons' new stadium, there is a restaurant on one of the concourses, because that's what you put on concourses, is little bitty restaurants. This one is a Chick-fil-a. Now, let's think about this for a minute. When does the NFL play a majority of its games? That's right. Sundays. What day of the week is Chick-fil-a never open because they think it's a religious thing? That's right. Sundays. Are they making an exception for the Chick-fil-a in the NFL stadium? No, it's going to be closed every Sunday because somebody thought it was a good idea. I don't know who, but, there we are. You know what? While we're at it, let's go ahead and talk about the Jemele Hill thing. Jemele Hill, if you don't know, is an ESPN announcer who recently called Donald Trump a white supremacist, just because he is. Now, the White House responded to this by saying, "You called the president a white supremacist? That's a fireable offense." And ESPN did respond by saying, "Okay, we got an apology out of her. Now shut up." The White House, however, is not amused, and I frankly don't care. She's expressing her freedom of speech, and it's a true and fairly provable thing. Look around. Wait, didn't I mention Charlottesville? Guess who inspired that? But, some people are just looking at this as Trump. He's picking on a black person, which Jemele Hill is. And Trump picking on a black person, that doesn't happen. That's unprecedented. Except for the following precedents. Actually, I'm just going to mention one. Mainly because it has to do with Hurricane Harvey. See, I'm tying all this together. Trump promised to donate $1 million of his own money to the victims of Hurricane Harvey in Houston, which is extraordinarily alliterative. Anyway, $1 million of his own money. However, he also was willing to give $5 million of his own money for Barack Obama's birth certificate in Kenya, even though it doesn't exist. So $5 million for a birth certificate to get that black man out of the presidential office. But only $1 million for Harvey victims. By the way, if you're wondering why Donald Trump just sounded like Yosemite Sam, that's because I realized Donald Trump really is Yosemite Sam. Blows up at the drop of a hat, dumb as hell. I mean, seriously, look at Yosemite Sam and look at Donald Trump and tell me, seriously. But of course, he's not the only person to have anything to do with Hurricane Harvey. There was also something that came out of the Secretary of Texas's state, or the Texas Secretary of State, or the state of Rolando Pablos is the Texas Secretary of State. I'll get it out eventually. And no, I'm not editing this because, frankly, that was kind of funny. He's the guy who's in charge of getting help for the people who were screwed over by this hurricane that came through. You might have heard about it. Now, there's a woman named Christine St. Pierre, who is the Minister of International Relations in Canada, who said, "Hey, you just got nailed with a hurricane. We'd like to send you help." To which he replied, "You know what? It would probably be good if you just sent us thoughts and prayers. That's all I can authorize is sending thoughts and prayers. If you want to send help, you should probably contact the correct state office." Except that is his office, and look, it's someone else who doesn't really know how to do their job. What? In our government? No, can't be. Except, yeah, it is. Again, still. But speaking of Hurricane Harvey and Donald Trump, because, hey, those are two absolutely hideous tastes that, should have nothing to do with each other. A lot of Trump supporters have started circulating a picture showing Black Lives Matter protesters blocking people from sending help to Hurricane Harvey. And if you don't believe us, here's the picture we found where they're standing hand in hand across an interstate blocking traffic. The problem with this is there's this thing called the internet and another thing called memory. And a lot of people looked at this picture and said, you know what? This looks awfully familiar. So they got on the internet and found the exact same picture. Yes, it is a Black Lives Matter protest. Yes, they are blocking an interstate in Boston 2 years ago. Had nothing to do with Hurricane Harvey. So let's see. What is that term that he likes to use? What is, fake news. Made up and exposed. Ta-da! Although I have to say, regarding all this hurricane stuff, the disaster plans we have in this country don't work. And I am fairly disgusted with the way people abused everything that went on down there by raising prices of stuff. For example, when Hurricane Irma came through, a flight from Miami to New York City went from $358 a seat to $3,578 a seat. That's $2 short of being 10 times as much. Was Martin Scarelli made the FEMA director when I wasn't looking? Who came up with these price gouging ideas? And here's another thing. There were no incoming flights, cars, buses, anything into Miami. They weren't allowed. Which makes me wonder, how are some people going to be getting out? Now, the reason they said none of the flights are going to be able to come in came from the airlines, who said it's not cost effective to bring back planes to Miami without passengers. No, but it would be the nice and humane thing to do, but I'm sorry, we can't have that. I will say this. I was getting a fairly tremendous giggle out of a Florida Sheriff's Department that actually issued the following warning. Do not fire any guns at the hurricane. People apparently needed to be told this because the bullets could get blown around and you might end up shooting yourself. Wow. Don't shoot at the hurricane. Here comes a hurricane. I can stop it with my Colt 45 and my 357 Magnum. I can't read the numbers on it anymore because I never bothered to learn to read. Wow. That's kind of disappointing in thinking that there are people that need to know that. I'm disappointed in our education system. I'm also disappointed in the people who were tracking the storm online. Why? Because the Weather Channel, didn't have it. It wasn't updated. CNN, if you can find the link, no, didn't have up-to-date information. It's the internet. It's instantaneous. Didn't have it. The best place that you could track Hurricane Irma? Telegraph.co.uk. That's right. The other side of the planet is tracking it better than we can here. Of course, where is Hurricane Irma now? It is now a tropical depression. Doesn't that sound like you have a sad little cloud? Tropical depression? And what does Trump think about all this? About Hurricane Irma? The best thing he said was, look at all the publicity them varmints are getting down at the Coast Guard. Oh, that's good publicity for them now, ain't it? Not, I'm sorry that this happened. Here, let me help. No. Look at the Coast Guard. Well, Donald Trump is not the most sensitive of people. I mean, he got rid of DACA this past week, or at least he's trying to. And I'm thinking his reasoning behind this is he wants to deport the children who were born in this country of immigrants who are unemployed. That's what he wants to get rid of. Children of immigrants who are unemployed. And that might not be a bad idea. I have 5 that he can start with. They would be Tiffany, Eric, Don Jr., Barron, and Ivanka. That's right. They're children of an immigrant who is unemployed. So maybe he did it to cut his own costs because he doesn't want to pay for his own kids anymore. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure he's doing it just to be a there's no reason for it. And if this actually goes through, what we should do as a country, one of the first things, is just give Lady Liberty, the Statue of Liberty, you know what I'm talking about, in New York City. Give that back to the French, because we just aren't the United States that we used to be. We're just not. And because of this whole DACA thing, Chicago, third biggest city in the country, has declared itself a Trump-free zone. Third biggest city in your country says, no, don't come here. That's a hint. Actually, let's go to the state next door. John Kasich, Ohio Republican senator. Republican? Really? What's he going to say? He's going to say, come to Ohio, we'll protect you from deportation because removing DACA is a bad idea. Wait a minute. A Republican said that? Wow. Perhaps this is the beginning of the end of the Republican Party. Or at least Trump's presidency. Wow, saying it like that even made me throw up a bit. Sorry about that. Another thing that's coming out soon that really should not be stopped by Trump, and if it does, I'm going to be a little bit pissed, is the remaining documents that the government has been keeping concerning the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. This October, pretty much everything else that they have not released so far is coming out, and it is said to be roughly 10 times the information that we've already got. They've got it. They've been holding on to it, apparently making sure that everyone who was involved dies of natural causes first. Now, Trump could prevent this from coming out, and if he does, I recommend revolution, because we probably should do that anyway. Not because of the JFK thing, but because of everything else. Seriously. Now, the House of Representatives did something this past week that almost made sense. They unanimously passed a self-driving car measure. Now, let me explain why this is not exactly the best idea. Self-driving cars? Good idea. I like this. Except the House measure would allow automakers to obtain exemptions. What does this mean? It means they could be deploying up to 25,000 vehicles a year without meeting existing auto safety standards. Now, that's actually just the first year. The cap would rise over the next 3 years to 100,000 vehicles that do not meet auto safety standards. Does that just not sound like a really bad idea to anyone other than me? Hello? Not meeting safety standards? Oh, and what's the name of the main company they're wanting to use? It's called Waymo, which to me is way too much like whammo, the sound a car makes when it runs into, anything. No, bad idea. And just to ask, why is it they believe in self-driving cars without safety standards, but not climate change or solar technology? Who the hell are these people, and what school did they apparently not attend on a regular basis? Seriously. Oh, and while we're on technology, I'll just throw this out. For its 10th anniversary, the next iPhone will be called the iPhone X. X is in 10, the Roman numeral, but it's really an X. So, hooked on iPhonics. Works for me, apparently. Oh, hey, why not? Let's throw an education story in here, too. Do you remember Brock Turner? The guy who served a whopping 3 months in jail for raping an unconscious woman. Yeah, that guy. He's featured in a new textbook where people are starting to complain, he's in a textbook? You're making him immortal. Why is this a good idea? Well, the Criminal Justice 2nd edition by Callie Marie Renison put his story in, and I think it's a good thing, because the story says, whatever you do as a lawyer, don't do this. This prick needed to be in jail a lot longer than he was. It says so in the picture that's circulating. And you know what else? It may immortalize him while he's technically alive, but you know what? It'll keep the little bastard's picture on file for everyone to be able to go, yeah, that's him. I'm not hiring this prick ever for anything. See? There's a good idea. Quick Tennessee news, because it came up. If you are familiar with Channel 4's Snowbird, which is kind of a fixture in Tennessee, anytime there's going to be a flurry, there's a little puppet Snowbird that pops up on Channel 4 and tells you, schools are closed because we don't know how to drive in flurries. after 30 years of, being at that station, they fired him. Yeah, just get out. Snowbird is gone. Which is, it was kind of a staple of Nashville, which is very sad. Something else that's actually also sad is something called the Nashville Statement. Now, this was something I was not familiar with. There's evangelical leaders who are trying to go and push laws through that make gay marriage illegal again. Not sure why it was illegal in the first place, but hey, there we go. And they're calling it the Nashville Statement. But in good news, the mayor of Nashville, Megan Barry, said in a statement, "Don't put our name on that, you bastards. It has nothing to do with Nashville." So you know what? Good for them. Now, if you can just hire Snowbird back, or maybe that's why they got rid of him, because Snowbird was gay. No, that's not it. He's a puppet. He's not real. But he does have a hand up his... Never mind. Next story. Conservatives are all in a Twitter, I'm using a pun, because Melania Trump was left off Vanity Fair's best dressed list. And conservatives are pissed. How could you leave the first lady off the list? Well, I'm going to let you in on a secret. Melania Trump basically wears the same kind of clothes my mom does when she goes to church and stuff. My mom's not on the list either. Granted, my mom's clothes are, obviously the cheaper versions, because anything you can see on Melania Trump, you can actually buy at Walmart for a 1% of the price. But yeah, really, you're upset about this? You know what? Grow up. All right, let's head back to sports for just a moment, because yes, football season did start, and frankly, I don't care. There has been one good story, and I liked this, and even if you don't like sports, you kind of have to respect USC for letting Jake Olson, a center who's been blind since the age of 12, they let him snap the ball in a game on live national television opening weekend. I think that is actually a fairly awesome thing. Because how many times have you ever heard of a blind football player? Seriously, that's cool. Everything else that's gone on in college football is just ridiculous. There's no defense at all whatsoever. Everybody needs to go home for a few more months, because in the first weekend, I was looking at who scored 49 or more points. That's 7 touchdowns in a game, because that's a big scoring game. 32 games where at least one team scored 49 points. 2 of them where both teams scored 49 points. There were 5 games where over 60 points were scored by a team, and that is not even including St. John winning 98-0. Seriously. Bring the defense next time. Oh, and incidentally, just an injury note, the NFL isn't much better because, well, for starters, my Chargers are in the wrong fucking city. And Tony Romo, yeah, he's already out for 4 to 6 weeks after suffering a sore throat in his broadcasting debut. Go Cowboys. If you want to complain about the way I handle the NFL or the NCAA or anything else in this show, go ahead and email me, rob@thefwotshow.com, or head to the website, thefwotshow.com, and check out the buttons for Facebook and Twitter. You can contact me there. Or, while you're there, you can even subscribe to the show on iTunes or the Google Play Store or YouTube, because there is something of a video version of the show. And don't forget to check out the FWOT shop, where you can get t-shirts and hats that go to support everything on the Coil Entertainment Network, because, hey, if you're going to put your money somewhere, you may as well get clothing out of it, right? Just saying. You know what? Let's leave this week on a good note. It has to do with Hurricane Harvey, though, which is a bad thing. I get that. But there's a guy in Houston named Jim Mickingvale, who is known locally as Mattress Mac, because he owns a mattress store that, just kind of goes together. Whatever. There is a petition going around to make a Mattress Mac Day, a holiday celebrating this guy, because during Hurricane Harvey, he turned his mattress warehouse into a shelter so people could have places to sleep on mattresses. And this included the people who were brought in, the National Guard, and anyone else who came down to help. This was the place to stay. And didn't get any money from it. He did it because it was the right thing to do. And I'm all in favor of giving him a holiday because we need more people like that. Because you know Trump sure as hell didn't do it. In the meantime, have a good week, everybody, and be safe because it's still extraordinarily weird out there. And unfortunately, I think it's getting worse.